Well, this is the first offering in a series of messages that I'm calling, So Do You Want to Dance? And the series is about the teachings and the works of Jesus. And we're going to be exploring how we can use these in our everyday life. The title for today's message is, Here We Go, from the Beginning. Now, as we move through a deeper exploration of Jesus' ministry of words and works, and his teachings and miracles, which he drew from those people that came to him from healing, we're going to be learning how to move in sync, in harmony with the rhythm of spirit, how to flow with divine love, life, and wisdom. And in this series, we're going to be learning how we can move past those fears which may be keeping us from our full spiritual potential. And we're going to be learning how we can be willing to go past our fears, move past the places where we have been, and be open to the places where we can go. And yeah, please put that up. In other words, we're going to be learning how to dance with God, how to dance with life. We'll be learning how to lean into our problems with God as our partner until we move through those experiences. Now, just think of the words that I've just used. All of them have something to do with what we think of as dance. I spoke about moving in sync, being in harmony with the rhythm of spirit. I spoke about flowing with divine love, wisdom, and life. And I spoke about leaning into with a partner who is God. So all of these have something to do with what we consider dance. Now, this series, I'm excited about it. And I asked Sharon to sing this song for us, I Hope You Dance, because basically it's a perfect song for this series that we are going to be experiencing here. And I find a lot of inspiration in the words of this song and the images that the words bring to my mind. That's why I printed it in the program here. I think it's a very hopeful, encouraging song, because to me it says, if you've fallen down, get up and start going again. Don't stay down. I found it interesting when I read online how Tia Sellers wrote the words to this song. She and Mark Sanders wrote this in the year 2000. So it's an old song. It's been around for quite a while. And I was surprised to see that so many people have sung it since the year 2000. Well, even online, there was Gladys Knight singing it and Dolly Parton singing it. Okay? And the song, actually, in the year 2000, was sung by Lee Ann Womack. And she actually had this song as the title song in one of her albums. And it was #1 hit. And the song received it won the Country Music Association Song of the Year and the Single of the Year in 2000. And then the next year, in 2001, the song won a Grammy and an award from the Academy of Country Music. So, and now today we have Sharon Power singing it for us. Another great first. Okay. Thank you very much for fulfilling my request for this special song. But when Tia did an interview, she spoke about how she came up with the winning words to this song, I Hope You Dance. She said at the time she had just broken up with a loved one, and she was experiencing a very difficult time going through a tough divorce, a very bitter divorce. And she said, I just needed to get away. So she said, I went to the beach down on the Florida coast, and I just sat there, and I watched the water. And she said, I don't know, something happened when I was when I was watching the water flow, and the words came to me, "I hope you dance." And she said, after a little bit with that, then she came up with some of the other words in the song, and basically that's how she wrote the song. She said when she got ready to leave, after having spent time now working with some of the words in this song that she was creating right there, she felt as though whatever was going to be happening in her life, that she can make it through, that she will be all right. And so her own song actually inspired her. And she said that she found that other people found it uplifting and inspiring as well. And it was such a hit that she and Mark Sanders actually wrote a book to explore some of the ideas in the song, and the book became very popular as well. But actually, the concept of dancing is basically, it's a metaphor for choosing to live more of life. It means to be daring, to be open to experience something greater in your life. It means living as long as we live. You know, there are some people who are alive, but they are not living up to their full potential. Some hurt from the past, or some fear that they can't seem to move through. Some experiences that they can't seem to forgive or release. These things keep them trapped in a little box that they have created for themselves. And I know the spirit in them wants to dance. Last week, on Thursday and Friday, I attended the Global Leadership Summit, which was held at K-State Union. And the host for the event was the First United Methodist Church here in Manhattan. And there are actually 4 of us from this church who attended. The experience was full of love, it was inspiring and empowering, and I learned something from all the different speakers, and there were quite a few. We had 2 days of great speakers, songs, music, and great snack boxes. In fact, Trish even offered me some from her snack box. I was inspired by so many of the speakers. I was inspired by Pastor Craig Goschel. Now, he opened and closed the summit, and he reminded us that we all have influence. We are all leaders because we have influence in the lives of others. A mother is a leader because she has influence over the lives of her children. Okay? We have neighbors and we interact with them. We are leaders because we have influence in their lives. Everyone has influence. And Craig said, we can choose to be an influence for good. More than that, we can choose to be an influence for God. Craig also said that what we need to do is simply 3 things, he said. He said we need to have a heart to care. And number 2, we need to have passion to inspire. And we need to have a willingness to empower those around us and those in our lives. Goschel said that fear is a choice, but so is faith. He also said, remember that new challenges equal new opportunities. And another speaker, Erwin McManus, was on fire. This man spoke from his heart about fear, about what it does to a person. He spoke about how we can move past it and what it does to us to challenge ourselves to move through that experience that terrifies us. He said, if we fear who we are, we won't live up to what we can be. McManus said, if we let fear have its way, it controls us, it masters us. And fear defines the limits of our lives if we allow it to. He also said, death is so last year. I had to think about that. What did he mean? Death is so last year. Okay. He said, because basically, there are all kinds of ways to die. Fear causes a kind of death. And he also said that our greatness is on the other side of pain, and our future is on the other side of failure. I think that those are powerful ideas. He said failure is not an end. It just makes the plot more exciting when we are living a story that's bigger than we are. Failure makes life more exciting. Okay, that's a very positive way of looking at it. But I really do love that the idea that our greatness is on the other side of the pain. If we could just move through the pain, we experience our greatness. And our future is on the other side of failure. If we could just bust through that failure, we have our future. Michael A. Singer expressed similar ideas about fear in his book, The Untethered Soul, The Journey Beyond Yourself. He wrote that the exploration of the self, capital S, is interwoven in the unfolding of our life. He wrote, the natural ups and downs of life can do two things. They can either generate personal growth or create personal fears in us. Whether we experience personal growth or personal fears, these depend on our view of change. And now, change can also be viewed in two ways. He said change can either be exciting or it can be frightening. But regardless how we view it, he said we all have to face the fact that change is the very nature of life. Nothing remains the same. Richard Rohr, a Franciscan monk and author and founder of the Center for Contemplative Action in New Mexico, wrote that the true goal of all religions is to lead us back to the place where everything is one, to the experience of radical unity with all of humanity and hence with God. Here, there is no fear. When we have that radical union with humanity and with God, there is no fear. He said, what makes it difficult for us Westerners to experience this is that we have never met the person that we truly are. We have never met who we really are. He said, because at every moment, all day long in our lives, we identify with our thoughts, with our feelings, with our actions. He suggests that we have to discover the face that we already had before we were born. He says, we have to find out who we were all along in God before we did anything wrong or anything right. This is from his book, Simplicity, The Freedom of Letting Go. He's talking about going back to the beginnings of things, the beginning of who we are. Going back to the beginning of who we are. Our spiritual roots. And this made me think about genealogy. I have a friend who's heavy into genealogy. We even went on a vacation, a genealogy vacation, and we were up in Virginia, tramping through a cemetery in the dead of night. And I said, Linda, you know I'm black, don't you? Okay. And you know this is the South, okay? Please tell me they don't have any what they call sundowner laws where I've got to be off the streets by a certain time. She said, don't worry about it, you're with me. And I thought, yeah, right, okay? Okay. But we met up, we connected with some of her relatives there, and the family came out with us. The graveyards were on people's properties, okay? So we were actually tramping through people's property to look at the gravestones. And so, I mean, this was the weirdest thing, okay? I'm out here in Virginia, in the South, and I'm tramping through these people's cemetery, okay? In the dark. The family gave us flashlights, and even the little kids came, and everybody was looking for Linda's relatives, okay? She had certain names that were supposed to be in that cemetery, and there were a lot of gravestones that were broken, and so it was hard to actually find some of them. But she did find some of the graves of her relatives, and she took pictures in the dark. Okay? We all held the flashlights to help. Some of them came out, but some of them didn't. Okay? And I remember that we were in another area, and the cemetery had gotten overgrown. Now, the grass there was about this high. I am not kidding you, okay? And I'm thinking, I'm not going in there. There could be snakes running around up in there you can't see. She, bless her heart, she braved it. There was a little gate around it. She opened the gate, and I watched her go in, okay? Now, she's shorter than I am, so the grass was up higher, okay? But I could see where she was, and I thought, well, if she can do it, I guess I can too, even though you can't see if there's anything running around, okay? So, you know, when you love something, you don't have the fear about it. She loved doing this, finding her ancestors. This was very important to her, okay? Now, granted, they weren't my folks, okay? But I was there for moral support, okay? And when the rain came, I had my umbrella, and I held it over her while she investigated and dug through the grass. I followed her as she opened up some spaces here, and she actually found some stones in among this grass. That was the strangest vacation I had ever had, okay? And I've done it once, so I don't need to do it again, okay? But it was interesting, and it actually told me that she really loved this. And I read online that people get into genealogy for all kinds of reasons. Some people want to find out if they have relatives who were famous. They want to find out that their relative was a king or a queen, okay? And what's that saying? Every woman wants to be Cleopatra. So some people want to find out if they have important people in their family. The other reasons that people are into genealogy are some of them to trace family heirlooms or family treasure. Another one that I totally understand is for those who fear that they may have inherited some disease or condition, finding their ancestors could be helpful in determining whether they are at risk. But in all of these reasons for doing genealogy, the article that I read said that genealogy answers three basic questions that most human beings have. Three fundamental questions, and those are: one, who am I? Number two, how is it that I am here? And number three, where am I going, or what's going to happen to me? And the article said that genealogy has a way to answer these questions for many people. And to be honest with you, these same three questions are a part of every religious experience. This is what people are seeking spiritually. Who am I? How is it I came to be here? What's my purpose? What does my future hold? And when I understood that, it made total sense to me how my friend got so involved in this. She has a second cousin and they share information back and forth. And yes, we've taken some other trips to some other states, and we've gone to the archives, we've gone to the historical societies in a lot of different towns, and I've helped her look through the old dusty books, okay, and find information, okay. But it didn't mean that much to me. I was there helping her, and that felt good. But just looking up, and Linda even did much of my genealogy. But she hit a roadblock with my family, couldn't go any further. But I do appreciate the work that she did with that. It was interesting. But what I read is that we need to be careful, because if you're looking for genetic information with tests and things like that, be careful of your information and having that online, because if you don't protect it, it can be available to others. And the article said you don't know how other people will use that information. So it suggested that if you are into this, especially when it comes to genetic information, that you protect your material, you protect your information online. I don't know. And it made me think of, and we're going to be studying the teachings and the works of Jesus. In the book of Matthew, in the beginning of Jesus, in the book of Matthew, Matthew gives us a daunting list of Jesus' ancestors. And the commentary I read said that this was very important to the Jews. Their lineage, their genealogy was very important because they had a belief that if you had any foreign blood in your system, you were not a genuine Jew. And the article that I read said that the priests, the Jewish priests, they had to be able to produce their ancestry and their genealogy going back to Aaron. Well, this is Moses' brother. This is way back in the Old Testament here. That's a long way. But if the priest got married, the woman that he was marrying, she only had to produce her genealogy going back 5 generations. So she didn't have to do the work that the priest did, but the priest had to procure and produce an uninterrupted genealogy, where the charts flowed from one generation to the next and the next. I just think that's incredible. And so we have Jesus' genealogy. And to be honest with you, Matthew was writing the book of Matthew for the Jews. He felt it was his job to convince the Jews that Jesus was indeed the fulfillment of old Jewish prophecy. And so he couched the lineage, he couched his expression of Jesus' teaching in a certain way. And the book of Matthew is called the teaching scripture because Matthew was very good about writing down what Jesus said, more than the other gospels. So it's going to be exciting to move into this scripture here. But Jesus declared his freedom from this physical genealogy. He spoke instead about his spiritual genealogy. And this is a genealogy that we share with Jesus. Jesus called God Father, establishing his pedigree in God. He declared his spiritual heritage during his ministry. And he went to great lengths to explain that pedigree to Philip, one of his disciples. In John 14, verse 6 through 13, Jesus is speaking to Philip, and he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except by me. If you know me, you will know my Father also. So now you know him and have seen him. And Philip says to Jesus, Lord, show us the Father, and we will be satisfied. And Jesus says, have I been with you this long and you still don't know who I am? I've been with you this long and you still don't know that if you see me, you see the Father. So how can I say I can show you the Father if you don't see that I am that Father? Whoever has seen me has seen the Father. Do you not believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me? The words that I say to you, I don't speak on my own, but the Father in me is that which speaks and does the works in me. But if you cannot believe in the works that I do. Very truly I tell you, Jesus said, the one who believes in me will also do the works that I do. And in fact, greater works shall that person do, because I'm going to the Father. And what does this mean? I believe that Jesus is saying that if someone knows him, if someone knows Jesus, they also know God because Jesus is fully expressing that Christ self. The Christ, as we understand in unity, is that individualized, personalized, indwelling presence of God. We all have the Christ within us, that part of God that is life. So Jesus is saying that in his thoughts, in his words, and in his actions, he is showing forth God. He's giving expression to God. And he's telling Philip and you and I that we too can give full expression to this God presence because our pedigree is God. Our spiritual parent is God. So we have the same ability and opportunity as Jesus. And every day when we choose to love rather than fear, when we choose to forgive rather than hate or hold on to grievances, when we choose to live in harmony and peace with others, when we seek what is good and we seek to share that with others, when we look for ways to be a blessing to others in our world, to be a support to others, and we recognize our oneness with all others and with God, we are learning to dance with life, to move in the rhythm of the Spirit of God. We are learning to dance with God. I invite you to join us for our upcoming explorations in how we may apply the teachings and the wondrous works of Jesus in our lives. We'll begin at the beginning of his ministry of words and works. So, do you want to dance? I'm hoping you do. God bless you.